Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 100 plus hours that I've spent with Dynasty Warriors Origins on PS5 Pro to unlock the Platinum Trophy and give my thoughts on if Dynasty Warriors Origins is the best Dynasty Warriors in the game series. Before we get started, please leave me a thumbs up or comment on the video and be sure to subscribe to the channel for future content. Let's jump in. I think it's important to say that I started playing Dynasty Warriors in 2001, shortly after Dynasty Warriors 2 came out. The completionist in me always enjoyed trying to get every item and final weapon for each character, in addition to the obvious mindless relaxation that the games offer. I spent thousands of hours between Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5, which are standout games of the series in my opinion. In recent years though, even though I played them all, I found the series to be on a declining path, and maybe with the exception of Dynasty Warriors 8, which I did enjoy even though it was way too easy. Dynasty Warriors 9 was the first game in the series that I simply couldn't bring myself to finish. I spent about 10 hours with it, and I just didn't have any motivation to keep going, which is unfortunate. So needless to say, I had high hopes for Dynasty Warriors Origins after playing through the demo and beating Lubu on hard mode, which is another video on the channel that you can watch if you need help or tips on how to beat Lubu. But did Dynasty Warriors Origins deliver and is the best game in the series? Let's talk about it. First, I'll start with the graphics. The most impressive thing about Dynasty Warriors Origins visually is simply the number of assets that appear on the screen at any given time. The series has always been about the 1 versus 1,000 mentality, but hardware limitations from the past made it difficult to truly make this type of experience possible. Sure, you could rack up 1,000 kills, but it never felt like you were dynamically in a massive battle. Thankfully, modern hardware has solved this problem, and there are many points in Dynasty Warriors Origins where there really are 1,000 enemies on the screen, and the environment really is on a much grander scale than it was before. There are massive castles to scale, like in the Battle of Hulao Gate, where you have to deal with Lubu, then multiple rows of shield walls, fire arrows, and catapults slinging projectiles at your army as you work your way to the top of the castle for Dongzhuo. While there is a slight frame rate drop during this at times, the game runs remarkably smoothly, even on PS5 Pro, which is the hardware I use for this review. Now, I wouldn't say that Dynasty Warriors Origins is the best looking game that I've played, because you can look back at a game from 2018 like Far Cry 5, and there's an argument to be made that the games have a similar quality of overall visual appeal. But Origins does look nice, and is easily the best looking Dynasty Warriors game to date. The cutscenes also look great, despite the bad voice acting, which I'll get into later. Next, I'll talk about the most important upgrade to the franchise, and that is the gameplay overhaul from Koei. In some ways, Dynasty Warriors Origins is the most challenging game to date, and in other ways, it isn't. In previous entries, Dynasty Warriors gameplay was focused on button combos that were usually a certain number of light attacks followed by a heavy attack. The number of light attacks prior to the heavy determined the combo that played out. You could continuously chain these combos mindlessly to slaughter thousands of enemies, and even enemy officers were pretty easy to beat because they could be staggered or their guard broken through quite easily, except in earlier games like Dynasty Warriors 2 and 3, where the stagger and block mechanics were not as refined as they were in later entries. However, the new direction that Koei has taken puts Dynasty Warriors in a kind of cross between traditional Warriors play and titles like the Souls franchise or Elden Ring, particularly when it comes to enemy officers. It's now much more dangerous to run straight into a group of 1,000 enemies with 4 or 5 officers and come out victorious, though it can be done by very seasoned players who know how to use wushu breaks to their advantage. While generic enemies are essentially beaten as they always have been, enemy officers are best defeated through a combination of parries, evades, and breaking their wushu meter. Unlike previous games, officers now have no stagger when you're attacking them. If you are mid-attack and they start attacking you, their attacks are always going to take priority and go through unless you hit a parry or evade, and the officers do significantly more damage to you than in previous entries in the series. Performing these perfect parries and perfect evades rewards you with bravery points, which are seen as the orange hexagons on the bottom left side of the screen. On lower difficulties, you only lose bravery by using your battle arts, which are powerful attacks or sometimes buffs that you can equip 4 of on your character. On higher difficulties, bravery is also reduced by blocking enemy attacks, which incentivizes you to get really good at perfect parries and perfect evades. While perfect evades have a somewhat generous frame window to perform and can be strung together nearly continuously, perfect parries have a very short frame window to perform at just the right moment, with this window decreasing as you increase the game's difficulty level. The benefit of parries, however, is that they do damage to the enemy in addition to briefly staggering them. When fighting an officer, you'll also notice a bar over their heads, which has shields in it. This is the Musou meter, and depleting it is the key to success in this game, as it's the only true stun lock that an officer can be put into. When this meter is depleted, the officer will kneel down and is susceptible for a few free hits before pressing the button for assault, which is the single best way to do damage to officers. When playing on the hardest difficulty levels and fighting 3 Chevron officers or a couple versions of characters like Lu Bu or Guan Yu, it's likely that you'll have in the neighborhood of 10 of these assaults before they go down because of the insane amount of health that they have. If you thought Lu Bu had a lot of health in previous games, wait until you give him a shot at Jia Pi on the hardest difficulty or fighting Guan Yu in the last battle of Cao Cao's path. In addition to these changes, Koei has also brought back duels, which are instances where certain enemy officers will challenge you to a one-on-one battle inside of a circle of soldiers. In these duels, your regular health bar is irrelevant, and the gauge on the screen is more like a who's winning meter. On lower difficulties, you can sustain a few enemy attacks and still rebound for the win, but on the hardest difficulties, you really can't make any mistakes because 1 or 2 attacks will automatically push the meter totally red and you'll lose the duel. Now, losing the duel doesn't mean automatic death, but it does drop your health down to almost nothing and makes it a little bit more challenging in the interim. This is another reason why getting good at parries and evades is essential, because that's the best way to win in a duel. Another enemy officer mechanic change is glowing attacks. Officers can glow red or orange, both of which have very different requirements for the player. For instance, when an enemy officer glows red, the officer is getting ready to perform an attack or string of attacks that should be perfectly evaded, not blocked. When an officer glows orange, however, they're going to perform an unblockable attack that can be evaded but is best dealt with using specific battle arts to break the attack and briefly stun the officer. You start the game out with a palm strike that uses 1 bravery point to counter these attacks, but other more powerful attacks exist for more bravery points that will break this orange attack. However, the orange attacks usually only have a few frame window to counter, so it's crucial to get really good at automatically reacting with a palm strike as soon as they turn orange. If you miss the attack, it is impossible to evade out in most cases, however. In Dynasty Warriors Origins, guards are back, and are another indispensable tool that can help you get out of rough situations. As you progress through the game, you will get more and more guards which can be killed in battle, but the guards, if you have enough of them, can perform up to 3 guard skills, which range from a cavalry charge to forming a defensive perimeter. These attacks do have a lengthy cooldown, however, so it's important to use them when things start to get hairy. If your guards die, you can replenish them at any captured fort, or you can borrow soldiers from other units in large battles. Even if you have 0 guards, if there are enough friendly soldiers from other units standing around, you can still perform the attacks using those soldiers. I personally found the cavalry charge and the fire arrows to be extremely useful, and combining these with tactical Musou gauge uses and Wushu meter breaks can wipe out large groups of enemies and officers. Speaking of the Musou gauge, it is still possible to perform multiple Musou attacks from the same gauge. However, letting the meter completely fill up will allow the option to enter God mode, which is a short period of time where you become undamageable, unflinchable, and battle arts do not deplete bravery points. At the end of this attack, your character will perform a massive attack where the screen turns gray and every enemy unit goes flying in true warrior style. The main character also can choose a companion in many battles. Depending on which path you've taken, it could be the likes of Huang Gai, Zhang Fei, or Jia Hodun, and there are 10 total in the game, 3 on each path and 1 secret bonus character. These companion officers also have their own Musou gauge, and usually 1 time per battle, you can switch to this officer for a brief period of time and enter God mode again with them. The difference here is that their God mode final attack is like a nuclear weapon going off on the battlefield, and it can easily kill 1,000 soldiers in a single attack. Not very realistic, but hey, this is a Warriors game after all, and after 100 plus hours of the game, I still find these attacks really cool, and I look forward to using them.
Watch the master at work. They just don't make enemy officers like they used to.
Beyond all this, horses are back in typical Warriors fashion, and there are plenty to find, including series staples like Red Hair, Stormrunner, and Hexmark. One of the best minor changes to the game is the speed at which your horse will appear when you whistle for it. It's almost immediate, and the button also automatically mounts you on the horse, instead of having to clumsily try to find the right button to press while standing at the right spot to get on the horse. I didn't find attacking from a mounted position to be very useful, but the transportation aspect certainly is crucial in just about every stage. One mistake that I commonly made that I found annoying is that the Musou button and the button to motivate your horse are the same, and I'm often pressing buttons so fast that I will accidentally use my Musou gauge instead of motivating the horse. As far as the general difficulty of the game, you start out with 3 levels up to hard, but once you complete the game you get access to a 4th difficulty that also adds challenges to every stage for special rewards, such as defeating certain officers in certain time frames, or finishing the battle with a certain number of officers alive. These challenges can range from pretty manageable to pull your hair out, such as defeating Guan Yu before he returns to Japi Castle, where he has a health bar so long that you need binoculars to see the end of it, on top of playing on the hardest difficulty already.
My brother was the target all along.
Now I wouldn't say that the hard difficulty is that bad once you get some of the upgraded abilities, a longer bravery bar, and decent weapons, but Ultimate Warrior difficulty can definitely pose some challenges, especially when facing multiple officers or when you have no help, such as Cao Cao's escape from Wan Castle. And since I mentioned weapons a moment ago, I think now's a good time to talk about those. I will say that weapons in general is one of the areas that I was most disappointed with in Dynasty Warriors Origins. Unlike previous Dynasty Warriors games where every officer has a unique weapon, here our protagonist gets several to choose from, including a traditional sword, Guan Yu's crescent blade, or Sun Shangzhang's battle rings, among others. These weapons are dropped by enemy officers and grade from 1 to 8 and have unique sets of battle arts. Grades 1 to 7 are more generic and come with random attributes, but grade 8 is a unique line of weapons that you only get one time from completing challenges. It really isn't worth purchasing weapons at all, unless you're trying to get the weapons trophy on PlayStation, because the weapons are expensive and really not very good. If you get multiple copies of a weapon, however, you can pay to merge them together for a higher power level or to transfer attributes. Visiting a weapon shop is pretty useless until you start getting grade 7 weapons to merge together for the attributes that you want. You will need strong grade 7 weapons to be strong enough to obtain the grade 8 ones. Veterans of the series like myself will probably get quite annoyed seeing characters like Huang Gai with gauntlets instead of his massive bludgeon, or Jia Shu with a sword instead of his sickles. I would hope that Koei would use all of the positive feedback from the changes in Origins for future titles, while also bringing back the ability to play as all of the officers with unique weapons. In some regards, I think this game was created to test the water for series fans to see if the changes were well received, before developing a game with all of the playable characters and unique weapons on a grander scale. Additionally, each weapon has its own attack patterns. No longer does every weapon work with 3 light attacks plus a heavy attack combo. Many weapons are more complicated to use now, such as the gauntlets where you must perform certain actions to take a different stance, which then opens up more attacks. I personally prefer the sword, simply because it's the only weapon with traditional Dynasty Warriors combos, but I don't fault Koei for making this change at all. I'm just glad they kept the sword standard for veterans like myself, because I really don't like the weapons like the lance or the crescent blade that are very slow and use heavy attacks as primary damage dealers. Despite this, it is important to level your skills with every weapon, as getting weapon ranks is the main way to level up your character in general to obtain more hit points, attack power, and defense. Each weapon has 10 levels, and there are 10 weapons in the game for a total of 100 levels. For context, you need to be at least level 72 before working on playing the game on Ultimate Warrior difficulty, and the only way to get to level 72 is to level up all of the weapons together. Weapon levels also reward new battle arts at certain points, and even unlock more skill trees, which is the place you can spend your skill points that you earn in battle on ability and stat upgrades. The game also features 4 item slots, 3 of which are customizable. You start with 4 meat buns, but can earn more meat buns as you progress, and then as other slots open up, you can choose what items to take with you, whether it's a health pill, a strength potion, or even an item that boosts the morale of the whole army slightly. On lower difficulties, enemy officers can drop meat buns, but on higher difficulties, you can only get meat buns in pots, which thankfully you can highlight in green with the character's discerning eye, which on the PS5 is the L2 button, after a certain point in the game. It is possible to get grade 7 weapons that will add back in a chance for enemies to drop meat buns on higher difficulties, but once you get rank 8 weapons, that again won't be possible because the abilities are set and you won't want to use a grade 7 weapon anyway. And since I mentioned morale, that's the last gameplay topic to discuss for now. On the bottom right hand side of the battle screen, there is a 3-section bar filled with blue and red. When more sections are blue, your army's morale is much higher, your officers are stronger with more health, and enemies are weaker. The same is true for the enemy when the bar is more red. It's best to try to keep at least 2 blue sections as much of the time as possible. This is accomplished by completing tactics, defeating enemy officers, and taking enemy supply bases. Morale has always been a part of the Dynasty Warriors series, but I would say in Origins it is the most relevant out of all the games, as it will dramatically affect how difficult the battle is. It's often worth it to follow the flow of battle and make sure you're supporting your other officers and carrying out the tactics. Now it's time to talk about the world map. The world map in Dynasty Warriors Origins is basically a map of ancient China divided into regions that are marked on the map with waystones. These regions each have their own peace meter, and that meter increases as you complete battles in the region, whether it's story battles, officer requests, or skirmishes. Skirmishes appear randomly as white circles on the map, and while they are mainly useless in my opinion, there are times where they are needed to maximize peace in that region or fulfill an officer request. The world map also has other items to collect, such as pyroxene, which you use at an inn to increase the level of your 5 equipable orbs, which add light modifications to your power and abilities. These level up very slowly, and I found myself to never really change what orb I was using unless I had a health and meat bun issue, in which I would switch to the Wellspring orb. Also on the map, you can find old coins, which are a sort of currency that unlock rewards at various milestones, up to 500 old coins. Again, I didn't really find many of the rewards very useful, and getting all the coins can be a pain because many of them come from completing stage challenges on Ultimate Warrior difficulty. Once you restore peace to a region, however, you will get nice rewards for that, and I would recommend doing it. On the map, you will often see friendly officers marked with a handshake over their head. This is the bond system, where you can create up to a 5-star bond with every officer in the game. In many cases, there's no real reward for doing this, but if you want the trophy on PlayStation, you'll have to max out every bond. Most of them are simply watching cutscenes and then playing battles using certain weapons with certain attacks. However, there are a few bonds in the game that are much more difficult to acquire, one of which because you don't even unlock the bond system until right before you kill the officer in battle. Now that we've covered all that, I will now cover the story. If you do not want story spoilers, now is the time to skip to the next section. Dynasty Warriors Origins takes place during the Han Dynasty, starting with the Yellow Turban Rebellion, as all Dynasty Warriors games have. The main difference here is that the game actually ends at the Battle of Chirbi, before the events leading to the Jin Empire. Because of this, we get the ability to play many more minor battles than ever before in the story of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The main protagonist is named Zilawan, though he doesn't know his name or background at the beginning because he suffers from retrograde amnesia. However, he does regain his memories over time. While I like the fact that the main character's plot adds some depth to the story, and some of the bonds he creates are fun to watch play out, especially Diao Chan, I really don't like the character isn't customizable in any way and doesn't have a voice actor. Technically he does have a voice actor, but it's only one line in the game and it's "the enemy officer has been defeated." The most odd thing about the character is that every single officer in the game seemingly falls in love with him, and I mean all of them. In fact, there are some Bond cutscenes that really left me scratching my head or even turning my head away because of how cringe they were, such as this one with Guan Yu.
Now, I've said my piece, yet I find myself wanting to talk more. You feel the same way? Then let us find somewhere to sit and relax before we continue. Tonight, I wish to etch the features of your face and the sound of your voice into my memory.
Or this questionable cutscene with Xiahou Dun, who is a man known for getting shot in the eye with an arrow, pulling the arrow and his eyeball out and eating the eyeball.
I'm glad we dragged you into our forces. You're a great officer, and useful as my eyes and ears. Cao Cao is impressed with you too, especially with how you command your troops. I hate to admit this, but I can't imagine doing this without you. No need to thank me. You'll make me blush.
Or perhaps this heartfelt, tender moment with Huang Gai, one of the biggest, largest, burliest characters in the entire series.
I'm sorry for barging in and making myself at home. A broody, hulking man is hardly the kind of surprise guest people want. These days, I'm a nuisance to everyone. I'm in no position to expect a warm welcome. I'm sorry. I didn't come here to bore you with my talk, but I just wanted to see you. And so I found myself here. Would you stay with me, without asking any questions, just like you did before? Thank you. No matter what happened, know that I will speak nothing but the truth with you. Now, how about we have a drink, to better enjoy our mutual silence? We'll let the wine take us where it may.
Speaking of voice acting, probably my biggest disappointment with Dynasty Warriors Origins is the sheer number of times that the actors mispronounce a character's name. In several instances, Cao Cao's name is pronounced incorrectly, a name that should be the gold standard of names not to mess up in a Dynasty Warriors game. However, the one that drove me the most crazy was the Sun family path. Sun Ce and Sun Xuan have their names pronounced in so many different ways that Koei should be embarrassed that this part of the game made it through quality control. Quite honestly, I was just cringing most of the time during the Sun path because of how many mispronunciations there were.
Then send some troops along with me to watch over me. I swear that I will not betray Lord Sun Sua's trust.
Lord Sun Ce, there you are.
Our brother, Lord Cao Cao, and Lord Sun Jian's successor, Lord Sun Ce.
Zheng Chao, nothing's more useless than a retainer who offers only compliments.
I did not intend to sow doubt. But as it stands, Lord Sun Quan is the leader of a kingdom. If he doesn't get a hold of himself soon, there will be trouble. Hopefully, the next battle will be a turning point for him.
Despite what he says, I get the feeling that Zheng Chao is more worried about Lord Sun Quan than any of us.
Yes, true loyalty can be a difficult thing to perceive. Be that as it may, we are only officers in the House of Sun. It is not our duty to meddle in our leader's personal affairs.
Very true. There are some things that Lord Sun Quan must face himself.
Additionally, the voice actors have all been switched around, and it's weird hearing characters with new voices like Zhao Hodun and Zhou Tai, two of my favorite characters, or even Ling Tong, who now sounds like he hasn't even hit puberty yet.
You refuse to fight me? Despite how you look, you're just a coward.
I will say the female voice acting is much better though, as the changes are not as discernible as their male counterparts. But back to the story, I did really enjoy the dynamics between the main character and Zhuhe. However, I found Bailawan to be a very annoying character that was also unnecessary. Koei could have easily left just Zhuhe as the voice in Xylawan's head throughout the entire game without needing Bailawan. I do understand that Bailawan was used in battles to add complexity and branching paths, but I feel this could have been accomplished in some other way because I didn't enjoy his character at all. By the time I got to the end of the game though, I was also left wondering what happens to Xylawan, as there really isn't any conclusion other than getting to choose if you want to be a general or live in the shadows. I'd like to know what happened afterwards because technically he should be at an advanced age by the Battle of Chirbi. Overall, I enjoyed the story, but the voice acting and Bailawan were both lackluster. So, in summary, what I really loved about this game was the scale of the large army battles and some of the environments, most of the new battle mechanics and systems, especially the parry and evade systems, and the overall gameplay is by far the best in the series. However, what I didn't like about the game was that I only had one non-customizable, androgynous, boring, playable officer outside of companions. The weapon system, especially for other officers without their unique weapons from previous games, and the voice acting is terrible. Would I say that Dynasty Warriors Origins is the best in the series? No, but I would say that it's tied at the top with Dynasty Warriors 4 and 8 for me. If Koei could combine all of the positive elements from those three games, I think we would have a real winner, and I do hope they do this for whatever game comes next. The battle systems and mechanics from Dynasty Warriors Origins, combined with the charm of Dynasty Warriors 4, and the sheer amount of playable officers and unique weapons from Dynasty Warriors 8, would make a fantastic game. Overall, I give Dynasty Warriors Origins an 8 out of 10, and I did enjoy my time with it. I will say now that I've gotten everything, I see little reason to continue playing, though I definitely got my $60 worth with 100 hours of content. Again, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment below on what you agree or disagree with, or your overall thoughts on Dynasty Warriors Origins. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.